Hello, welcome back to Bonaventure Time. I just finished a lot of videos, or maybe not a lot, but some videos on scholasticism, St. Bonaventure, St. Thomas Aquinas, Blessed John Duns Scotus, and that was received well, I think, by you guys, and you guys gave some great feedback, some of you guys, and I was very thankful, and I hope that really helped. I was very thankful for that, so thank you. Today I want to talk a little bit about the nature of love. This is the philosophy of love is actually probably my most specific interest within ethics. Although certainly I like to look at the metaphysics of love and all of what that entails. And I want to talk about it specifically from phenomenologists because I think they explore it in a way that had not been explored previously, or at least illuminate truths in a more elaborated and more deeper way. And actually, I've mentioned that I associate or have a deep affection for a lot of the phenomenologists. And I've spent time studying them, perhaps more than any other group. And the reason that is because of my interest in the philosophy of love, and I think they do just such a wonderful job, especially Hildebrand. So yeah, with that, I want to explore the nature of love with you guys, and just talk about some central themes that hopefully isn't just philosophically illuminating, but hopefully, actually, a greater hope of mine is that it could just be practical, and help in just the everyday life. So, yeah. So with that, let's jump into some themes of the nature of love. The first theme I want to talk about is what the phenomenologists were brilliant in kind of exposing was the a priori structure to love, and not just love, but emotions in general. Although not all emotions. And what I mean by this is Husserl kind of really started this train with Shaler, amongst others, but I'm going to refer specifically to them, in that there are certain objects that demand a certain affective response, right? And, right, so take, for example, the beloved person. The beloved person, according to Wojtyła, or really any person, right, demands a response of love, right? An emotional, affective response of love. Now, that's debated whether it's an affective response. Personally, I would agree with that. I think it's also a volitional response, something that differs from von Hildebrand, but that's besides the point. Perhaps I'll make a video on that. But say, for the example of love, right, that person demands responses. Wojtyła says the person is a thing to which the only proper and adequate attitude is love, right? So there's a certain objective, right, response that is due to them, right? And if you're not convinced by love being an effective response, take, for example, one Hildebrand likes to talk about, the death of a friend, right? It's not crazy or subjective to cry, or to cry mournful tears, right, for this loss, right? It's actually according to your nature. It's actually right. It's something objective. It's something profoundly true to do. It's profoundly right, right? To cry over the loss of a friend, right? This is a right due response to the death of a friend, right? And it's not just subjective, as I said, to just cry, right? It's something that's motivated by the object, namely the event of the loss of a friend. And this is something that what they mean, the phenomenologists mean, what Husserl means by an a priori structure to emotions, is that there's a due response to certain objects that motivate or elicit a certain affective response, right? And so we come to see that emotions, specifically love, admiration, veneration, have a certain motivation from an object, right? They're motivated. They're not subjective. They have a rationality, actually. These spiritual emotions, as Hildebrand calls them. So they're not irrational, like Aristotle totally claimed, in the Nicomachean Ethics, right? And this is what Hildebrand really wants to show in the heart, is that emotions, specifically spiritual emotions, actually more specifically spiritual emotions, some emotions he admits are irrational, but spiritual emotions have a rationality, and it's found in the object, right? And that's something that they found through the idea of intentionality, right? And this is the second theme I want to talk about, that love as an effective or value response, or whatever you want to call it, volitional response, is intentional, right? And I think this is pretty easy to understand, that love always is conscious of the, right? When you love, you're always conscious of the beloved person you are loving. right? And you see this in other emotions, right? With the mournful tears, you are crying because you are conscious of the friend who you lost, right? Right? You're conscious of them. And so, right, there's an intentional structure to love. And this shows the dignity of love. That love is not just, again, not irrational. It's not just the feelings, right? People like to either say love is a feeling or love is not merely feelings, right? But they speak of feelings as if there's something, or emotions really, as if there's something, plaguing us, right? The Stoics talk a lot about that. But the phenomenologists really want to show that actually love has feeling, right? And that's not wrong, and that's not bad, right? And these feelings, these emotions can have an objective structure to them, right? Because there's a priori laws, because of the intentional character of love, right? And that fact that it's motivated, right, by the object. Its rationality is found in the object, not just in my emotions and my crying or in my joy, right? The feeling of joy, the feeling of admiration for another person, right? It's motivated by someone, so it finds its objective character in the object it's responding to. And you see that in emotions are always responses, and that's where you get to the idea of intentionality for the phenomenologists. So those are two big themes, and they're pretty related: the a priori structure of emotions, specifically love, and the intentional character and structure of love. And this is something accepted by a lot of phenomenologists, right? Not a lot, actually, all that I can think of, like Seifert, Dietrich von Hildebrand. Maybe you're a Stein or Scheler fan. They all agree on that. Husserl, Simone de Beauvoir would even agree with that. Martin Heidegger. I know there's a lot of Heideggerian fans who've been watching some of my videos. Sorry, I'm just not as well versed in him, so I haven't made as many videos as people would like, and I'm hoping to study him more, as I've been doing a bit recently. But anyway, that's besides the point. This is something, right? These two concepts are widely accepted by phenomenologists. A third theme that I really want to talk about is love as a value response. This is more found specifically within the character of von Hildebrand and Max Scheler, although they differ in what they mean by value. I've talked about that in other videos. But even Stein admits of the same theme, and Husserl, right? So while this language is kind of exclusive to von Hildebrand, Scheler, and Seifert, the notion is accepted by all. So this is why I want to mention it, but specifically from von Hildebrand. And right, so love is a value response for him, right? So the value of the beloved, and it's responding to the beloved, right? And I want to clarify what he means, because if you're familiar with the philosophy of von Hildebrand, or you've seen my video and it somehow enlightened you about value philosophy and somehow introduced you to it, or you just happen to know it or have studied Hildebrand yourself, value response is responding to a certain value, right? So there's the quality of beauty, right? And I can respond to the beauty, right? It's a value response. I can give it a due response that it merits. Say a person is intelligent, right? I can give the value response of admiration, right? And admire their intellectual capabilities, or their humility, right? But notice in these value responses, I'm always responding to a certain quality of the person, not necessarily the person as a whole. And so this is why Hildebrand wants to say in love it's different, because it's what he calls a super value response, and Seifert holds this as well. What he means by that is love is a unique value response in that it's responding to the person as a whole. So it's not responding to one certain quality of the person, say the beauty of the beloved, or the intelligence of the beloved, or even the humility of the beloved, right? It's responding to the person as a whole. And this is something even Wojtyla loves to emphasize, that finding and responding to the truth of the whole person, right? And he talks about that in the need to integrate love. And he follows a more Thomistic Aristotelian sort of tradition in that way, but I think, right, you can find certain harmony, right? And I think the phenomenologists do. I've talked about that in our videos, that do find certain harmony with Thomism and Aristotelian and Augustinianism, certainly Bonaventurianism. And this is a huge theme for Hildebrand, that it's not just responding just to the truth of the person as a whole, but it's responding to them as this particular person. That's something that Hildebrand emphasizes a little more than, say, the scholastics or the ancients. Seifert, certainly. And if you want references, The Nature of Love is a great one for Hildebrand, specifically chapters 2, 3, and 9, and True Love by Joseph Seifert, which is a very short book. You could read it in an hour, if you just want some references to what I'm alluding to. and I highly recommend reading it. Um, and so yes, a super value response, responding to the person as this unique, ineffable, um, unrepeatable, as Dr. John Crosby likes to say, person, right? A unique thought of God, as Hildebrand says. And I think that's something very beautiful, and a lot of phenomenologists, came to agree with this idea. Um, and so I wanted to clarify what Hildebrand, if you ever encounter that love is a value response, and it's responding to the person and their value as this unique person, the full thematicity of the person, as Hildebrand says in The Nature of Love. So, love is a value response. That's the third theme. And the final theme I want to talk about is that love has a super-actual existence. This is something that you would see in Edith Stein in her philosophy of psychology, von Hildebrand in The Nature of Love. Joseph Seifert alludes to it. Husserl would talk about this, and more in the lines of just emotions in general, or certain emotions, and Shaler on nature of sympathy. What they mean by a super-actual existence is that love does not need to be reawakened. When you love someone, say the beloved, or even say God, right? You do not have to be fully conscious of the object of your love, right? Say the beloved, right? Say you're working and your wife's at home, right? You love your wife and you're working. You don't always have to be conscious for love to exist, right? Love has an enduring existence, and that's what I mean by super actual. That it's pervaded your personality, to which it has this existence that's always enduring. It's the current of it lives in the current of consciousness, as the phenomenologists like to say. And so love, it really has this enduring character, so it doesn't need to be reawakened, right? Or it doesn't need to be recreated, right? It's just enduring, and so when you become conscious, right, you're recalling that existence of love, and it has this beautiful enduring character underneath your stream of consciousness. And I think that's just a beautiful thing that Hildebrand likes to expand upon, and Stein and all these other phenomenologists. And I think it's true. I think these principles are true, right? That love has this a priori structure. It's intentional. I think we see that love is motivated, right? The rationality of love as a feeling, love as an emotion, love as an affective. And I'm not opposing love as a volitional response either here, right? Willing the good, as I talked about in my St. Thomas video. But, right, I think what the phenomenologists were wonderful in showing is that these feelings of love, which undoubtedly we've all felt at some point, right? They're not crazy, or they're not too subjective, or they're not irrational. There's actually a rationality to them, and there's a dignity to them, to these emotions. And that's why, hence, Hildebrand calls them spiritual emotions. And we also see that love is a value response, right? We're responding to the person as a whole, not just to a certain quality. And to kind of clarify that, Hildebrand admits that certain qualities can attract us to people. He's not denying that, like you would see developed in Love and Responsibility by Wojtyła. But he wants to admit that these open us up to the person as a whole, to them as their unique character, as a unique, unrepeatable person. And I think that's an idea that you see in John Duns Scotus, Blessed John Duns Scotus, and St. Bonaventure. Undeveloped, but developed in the phenomenologists, and I think it certainly echoes them in St. Augustine. And then finally, right, we see the super-actual existence, that love pervades our entire personality, and it has this enduring character in us. And so it doesn't need to be recreated, but you simply, it's sort of, I don't want to say in the subconscious, because that sounds Freudian, which is something, a notion of love I reject in pretty much every shape and form. Not pretty much, in every shape and form. But in the sense that it's just enduring, it has this enduring character, right? Doesn't need to, right, reawake or be recreated. And so I think that's something very beautiful, that love just kind of penetrates your entire personality, so to speak, your entire character. So those are four themes that phenomenologists love to talk about and expand upon, and four themes that I think are central to the nature of love. And I hope that these are some. I hope this video is helpful, and that it actually can be practical, in how we come to understand love and its peculiar, mysterious nature. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please like it, please share it, please subscribe if you have not. And I hope to see you next time. God bless.